Today, we are going to see the changing profile of crimes in India. In sociological terms, crime is identified as an act of deviance, which implies that it is against socially accepted norms or written rules and laws. Since crime is very much a social phenomenon, the crime profile is bound to change with the changing society. In fact, the character, the personality, and the social behavior of every individual are shaped by the socio-economic environment surrounding the individual. Every society has its positive and negative factors. Those who are confined within the positive factors of the society develop into normal citizens, while those who enter the negative side of the society turn into deviants. The objectives of this unit, which we are going to discuss, are to highlight the changing profile of the society in the Indian context from independence, to analyze the characteristics of the socio-economic institutions which have emerged from the post-Second World War, changing profile of crimes in both quantitative terms and qualitative terms. Social reactions to crime. So, these are the four objectives with which we are going to discuss. This lesson deals with the emerging profile of crimes in India in the background of socio-economic and political changes which have been taking place. Since independence, the world as a whole has been witnessing socio-economic and political changes. In the background of those changes, every walk of life has undergone changes. As stated earlier, people's behavior, attitude, and social psychology have also changed. The changes are reflected in the crime profile of India also. Falling in line with the global trends in the advent of science and technology, India has been experiencing technological progress in all fields of activities. And crimes also have become more scientific and technical, which are reflected in the modus operandi of crimes. In very broad terms, crimes can be classified as conventional crimes and non-conventional crimes, violent crimes and non-violent crimes, crimes without victims and crimes with victims, white-collar crimes, economic crimes, sex-related crimes and organized crimes, etc. It is necessary to understand the changing scenario of socio-economic changes of the country since independence in order to understand the changing crime profile. This unit is divided into four sub-units. They are India at the dawn of independence, dimensions of development, changing profile of crimes, social reactions to crime. Now we will see the conditions of India at the dawn of independence. At the dawn of independence on 15th August 1947, which has become a history now, India was very much known as a backward country because of low GNP and low per capita income. Also, the literacy rate was below 20%. Health and sanitation were in a deplorable condition. Indian agriculture was mainly dependent on monsoon rains and witnessed conditions of drought during monsoon failure. But for a few textile mills established in Bombay, Calcutta, Ahmedabad and Chennai, etc., India was not in the industrial map of the world. India was a land of villages with a few urban agglomerations. But for a small minority of privileged people such as the zamindars, the business class and those in the government service, a vast majority of Indian masses were at the lower rungs of the society. Sociologically, India was a land of thousands of communities, with a majority of them being Hindus by religion and small minorities belonging to other religions like Islam and Christianity. Life of an average Indian was under the direct and indirect influences of religion, joint family system, peer groups, and elders of the villages. In the villages, besides agriculture, people were engaged in village crafts like blacksmithy, pottery, basket making, jaggery making, brick making, and other semi processing activities. Economically, life of an average Indian revolved around few wants and majority were contented with whatever income they earned. In short, with very few wants, life was very simple for the vast majority of Indians when compared to the life of an average Indian in the modern era. With extremely limited means of transport and communication, every village was almost in seclusion and isolation. Criminologically, at the dawn of independence, when the country was very backward with its 32 crores of population, majority of Indians were at the lower, middle and lower rungs of the society. Crime rate and crime levels with reference to conventional crimes like robbery and theft were at low ebb during 1950s and 1960s because of the following factors. Majority of the population was in the low income bracket. Poor means of transport and communication. Youth of the society were under the influence of the elders of the family system and peer group. Teachers in the schools were adored with great regard. Money value of goods and services were subordinated to the real value of goods and services. Police was held with great regard by the society. Criminals, once convicted, were almost excommunicated by the society. Prison life was hard for the inmates. With very few schools, literacy rate was very low. There was good political leadership. Contact with outside world and other countries was very limited. Rural societies with small population had clear identities of almost all the rural folks. There was summary punishments meted out by village elders to those who committed something wrong. Police treatment of the accused was very cruel in those days. Limited circulation of media and media exposure. All these factors were responsible for low crime and crime rate in India during 1950s and 1960s. Although conventional crimes like robbery and dacoity were at low ebb, the villages used to witness community-based crimes like murder with vengeance. Moreover, there used to be solo robbers who were notorious for their merciless acts of robbery. Besides these, certain other offences like illicit brewery, village type gambling, abducting young women, cattle theft, petty thefts, etc., were common in those days. On the eve of independence and immediately after independence, Podal village, later called Podal, where the Tamil Nadu Central Prison is now located, claimed notoriety as a center for bootlegging and illicit brewing of arrack. House burglaries in the houses of well-to-do people of the society were also common. Mr. Parthasarathi V.L., a former additional superintendent of police of Tamil Nadu, cites in his book Some Cases and Culprits, published in 1986, house burglaries, gambling in the Grove, and some notorious dacoits. He also cites note doubling and counterfeiting the currency in his book. The author has given the details of the investigation of 100 rupee counterfeiting. The investigation started in December 1971 and ended in August 1985. Moreover, the 1960s also witnessed raffle ticket cheating in Tamil Nadu. As for other states, the ravines of Chambal Valley, adjoining the three states of Madhya Pradesh, Bihar and Rajasthan, accommodated notorious dacoits like Raja Man Singh, the dacoit queen like Putli Bai and Polan Devi, and a host of others. They struck terror in the villages mostly with a touch of vengeance against particular communities and also incidentally robbing their train passengers. Crimes of the conventional nature mentioned earlier are found in the crime records of Delhi, Mumbai, Kolkata, Bhopal and some districts of Andhra Pradesh. Only after independence, the country started experiencing the fruits of development. And now we will see the dimensions of development. A knowledge of the dimensions of economic development sought to be achieved through the 5-year plans is considered necessary to understand the correlation between economic development and crimes. Some statistics are given below in support of the contention that crime rate was low in the post-independence period. Kamalakara Rao, in his thesis published in 1983 on professional crime in India, has given the crime rates per 1 lakh of population with reference to property offences between 1956 and 1975, covering 20 years period. 3 figures were culled out from this statement, that is 135, 166 and 150, corresponding to the lowest crime level, highest crime level and mean average of the crime level for the period between 1956 and 1975. These figures refer to crime rates per 1 lakh of population in this period. Kamalakara Rao has asserted in his thesis the possibility for the low incidence of crime in rural areas are characterized by close and intimate face-to-face informal relations. Further, there is transparency or visibility of behavior and no individual or group can escape notice of his or its conduct. He is of the view that in spite of fluctuations between the states, crimes showed increasing trend since 1966. He states, for the country as a whole, there is a noticeable increase in dacoity and robbery, particularly from the year 1970 onwards. Similarly, from 1970 onwards, crime rate with reference to housebreaking also increased from 51.83 to 54.65 in 1975. Crime trends and crime rates cannot be the same for all times and for all places. One fact about crimes is that the crime rates and crime trends have not only been increasing since 1970s, but also have been proliferating. That is, not only conventional crimes are increasing, new types of crimes with high-tech profile are also increasing. Here is an example. Online fraud. An engineering student loses rupees 5.38 lakhs. Before we go to the details of changing profile of crimes since 1970s, we have to look into the dimensions of development, because we find most of the crimes of the modern periods have a close relation to the development process of the nation. The development process involves the following features, that is, dimensions of development. In the words of K. S. Shukla, development is a multifaceted phenomenon and may be understood as political, social, economic, spiritual, emotional, physical and intellectual in accordance with its use and expanse. Each dimension may be viewed independently or comprehensively. Depending on the degree of control mechanism exercised by the government machinery on the process of economic development, there are bound to be both positive and negative effects. First, we shall see the positive sides of development before we look at the negative side. And now the positive side of development. The process of development has taken different shapes in different periods. It depends on the type of development which a country has. The following factors need to be reckoned with in the context of economic development. 1. There was a transformation of the nation from a state of labor-intensive technology, in spite of the fact that this is bound to lead to mass unemployment. For example, the textile industry of India during 1950s, 1960s and 1970s was very much labor intensive, with each textile mill employing thousands of workers. From 1980s onwards, most of the textile mills had a technological facelift which made them labor surplus and which they had to get rid of. 2. Structural change. Development in the long periods creates structural changes. In an underdeveloped country, a vast majority of the population depends on the primary sector, which is agriculture and allied activities. In developed countries like the US, only 3 to 4% of the population depends on the primary sector. Developmental process has to create enlarged secondary sector and tertiary sector. This means migration of a vast majority of the rural population to other areas in search of employment. Growing unemployment, underemployment and disguised unemployment in the rural areas. India started experiencing all kinds of unemployment from the 1980s onwards, such as total unemployment of workforce, underemployment and disguised unemployment. Unemployment became too visible and enlarged since the 1980s. 4. Role of public sector undertakings. Public sector undertakings were created in the 1960s and 1970s in line with the broad objective of creating socialistic pattern of society. 5. Infrastructural development for industrial progress. Infrastructural development like irrigation, power projects, transport and communication, educational and health facilities are an integral part of the developmental process. A huge investment was made to develop the infrastructures for agriculture, industry, urbanization and expanding administration. 6. Development of agriculture. As far as India is concerned, development of agriculture is of primary concern for removing the excessive population pressure on land and employ the surplus rural labor force in other sectors. This needed the development of many subsystems of agriculture like agricultural research, extension activities, agricultural universities and colleges with the research farms, better irrigation facilities and marketing and storage facilities. All these measures resulted in the green revolution of the 1960s. At the same time, this led to the migration of excessive labor and population to small and big cities where the migrated population could not find suitable alternatives. 7. Industrial development. Any nation needs to develop its industries, both capital goods industries and consumer goods industries. Following the Mahalanobis model of growth, the second 5-year plan was devoted to heavy industrial development, but as it became inflationary, industrial development was dispersed from third plan period onwards. However, the technical nature of the industries under the purview of plants could not fully absorb the migrated rural workforce. Those who migrated from the villages could find accommodation only in the open space of the platforms, railway stations, other public places and in the vast expanse of slums of the erstwhile Bombay, Delhi, Calcutta, Chennai and other cosmopolitan centers. They could not have access to even the minimum facilities which they had in their home places. 8. Developmental inflation. Development process creates its own inflationary spiral. Huge investment in infrastructures, long gestation periods of heavy investments, huge increase in money supply to finance the developmental process, all were capable of creating an inflationary spiral. Inflation is said to be an inevitable phenomenon of development. Inflation adversely affects wage earners and supports business class. The result is unequal distribution of income. So far, we have seen the outline of planned development through the 5-year plans of India. But the so-called planned development did not create an utopia for all concerned. In the words of S.C. Dubey, at the end of the 3 decades of intense developmental activity, there was little evidence of real development having been produced in distributional terms. That is, the benefits of development were not equally or even equitably distributed among the people of India. In the words of S.C. Dubey again, as a result, social tensions mounted and gave rise to a series of intractable socio-cultural problems. 9. Limits to growth. Economic growth has never been an unmixed blessing in any country. A.C. Bain, in his book Limits to Growth, has highlighted the limits and constraints of growth. All the growth factors are closely followed by their own anti-growth factors, and anti-growth factors will overtake the growth factors at some stage or other if they are not identified at an early stage and remedies worked out. Drastic socio-economic changes revealing the changing psychology of the population, its attitude and lifestyle shifting values are witnessed in the process of economic growth. All these changes have an impact on the crime trends of the country. The following factors became visible in the process of economic growth. 1. Unregulated urbanization and growth of slums. 2. Substandard living conditions in the cosmopolitan cities. 3. Families of migrants divided for long periods. 4. Rise of organized and unorganized beggary. Rise of gambling dens, bootlegging and flesh trade. 6. Technological revolution of the 1980s. 7. Criminals shielded by law enforcers who shared the spoils and booties. 8. Severe social and psychological strains in the midst of hostile environment. 9. Increasing mobility of labor across the world. 10. Unprecedented media growth which glorified crime and criminals. 11. Rising levels of education of all categories leading to educated unemployed people. 12. Poverty eradication programs were better propagated than executed. 13. The divide or the gap between the rich and the poor became much wider. 14. Social tolerance of certain evils like encroachments of public lands, corruption at all levels, and prostitution, child labor, small and minor crimes, etc. 15. Politicization of crimes and criminalization of politics. All the factors mentioned above had enormous impact on the crime trends during the periods between 1960s and 1990s. These factors reflect the push factors and pull factors of crime. Moreover, as the rural exodus increased, cities became overcrowded. The migrants lost their identity in the ocean of anonymity. It is obvious that anonymity is closer to criminality than identity. There are a number of identity factors such as parentage, nativity, education, religion, and occupation which surround one's life. In the case of people of lower strata of society, these identity factors are weak and broken, while for the people of well settled life, these factors are strong. And now we pass on to the changing crime profile since the 1980s. In this subunit, we are going to see how the crime profile has been undergoing a drastic change since the 1980s. The reason for having the 1980s as the cutoff period is that this period witnessed a great technological surge in all walks of life in India. Every factor mentioned in the previous subunits has an impact on the crime profile which the country has witnessed since the 1980s. General crime trend. While conventional crimes like dacoity, robbery, theft, housebreaking, cattle theft, etc. have shown increasing trend from the very beginning, non-conventional crimes like counterfeiting the currency has also increased. Also, hawala transactions, cyber crimes, cell phone borne crimes, organized crimes, smuggling of heroin, abduction of people and children for ransoms, political crimes, and crimes with political background, crimes like chit fund frauds, money laundering, etc. were increasing after 1980s. Besides these, high-level corruption, stamp paper scam, stock market scam have all been showing increasing trend. Moreover, conventional crimes also show an increasing trend in the background of technological surge. For example, the housebreaking team, mostly 3 to 4, invariably makes use of mobile phones. Computers are used for organized crimes and global level crimes like terrorism. With the era of globalization, it will not be an exaggeration to say that many crimes are also globalized. Criminals of one country now can easily escape to other countries. Fastest means of transport and communication are not only at the services of all the sectors of the economy, but they also help the criminals. Terrorism is another big challenge faced by many countries today. The following crimes have been very much reported by the media in recent years. 1. Property crimes, which include murder for gain, dacoity, robbery, housebreaking by day and by night, major thefts, minor thefts, pocket picking, suitcase lifting, etc. Also, bike lifting, car vehicle lifting in big cities. 2. Offences against body, which include murder with vengeance, family related murders, family property related murders, community related murders, religion related murders, and political murders. Cheatings and frauds, which include money related frauds, which may be direct frauds or indirect frauds, job related frauds, bank related frauds, matrimony related frauds, real estate related frauds, gold related frauds. 4. Terrorism. India has become almost an easy target for national level terrorists like Maoists and international terrorists like Al Qaeda. Many countries like Pakistan, Afghanistan, US, UK, some states of Africa are faced with terrorist attacks for the past 12 years. Major cities like Delhi, Mumbai, Chennai, Hyderabad, Bangalore, etc. have witnessed terrorist attacks. 5. Increasing agitations. The country has also been witnessing increasing agitations, many of which are instigated by the opposition political parties. There are also social agitations demanding basic amenities like drinking water, roads, power supply, etc. 6. Election related crimes. During the times of major elections and by elections, the country witnessed election related crimes like bribing the voters in cash or in kind. However, in the assembly elections held during May and June 2011 for Tamil Nadu and a few other states, the Chief Elections Commissioner of India was able to control the situation and conduct the elections fairly well. 7. Drug related crimes. Drug related crimes are of 4 categories. They are drug manufacture, which includes cultivation of the ganja plant, its processing and packing. B. Marketing, which generally means smuggling of the stuff to different destinations at the global, national and local levels. This has given rise to the drug mafia. C. Consumption of drug. This refers to final consumption of the drug by addicts. This includes many categories of the people like the school or college going youth, some sections of the daily wage earners, prison inmates, underworld dadas, etc. D. Drug induced crimes. Finally, those under the influence of drugs commit different types of crimes. These 4 kinds of drug related crimes are being committed by the drug mafia. The terrorist groups also resort to drug related transactions for raising funds for their movement. 8. High tech crimes. The world is witnessing high tech crimes related to computer networks, ATMs and mobile phones. Cases of fraudulent transfer of funds from one account to another, transfer of using or misusing computer technology are being reported now. 9. Sex related crimes and violence against women. Increasing cases of sex related crime and all kinds of violence against women are also reported by the media in recent years. Now we see the changing crime profile as reported by the National Crime Records Bureau of India. A report published by the National Crime Records Bureau compared crime rate from 1953 to 2006 and noted that burglary declined by 38% during 1953-2006, whereas murder increased by 231% during the same period. According to the NCRB, kidnapping increased by 356%. Except burglary, all other crimes have increased during the period of economic development. Crimes by the locale indicates highest crime rate for Pondicherry at 447% in 2006 over 1953, and Kerala reported the highest crime rate at 312% among the states for the same period. Crime against women is another dimension of crime which has been increasing during the period of development. This includes sexual harassment, dowry harassment, child marriage, female infanticide and abortions, domestic violence, etc. Poaching and wildlife trafficking and cyber crimes, corruption and police misconduct and crime against foreigners in India are some other dimensions of crimes of recent years. Now we look into some statistics relating to the juvenile offenders. The Times of India of 6/2/2009, Delhi, reported on juvenile with a serious tone. Juvenile crime in the capital saw a disturbing increase of 8.9% in 2008 and 7.8% in 2007, according to police reports. The capital city was shocked in January 2009 when an 8-year-old boy in a fit of rage slit his 6-year-old neighbor's throat following a fight over a game. The boy was arrested and sent to observation home. A 12-year-old boy stabbed an 8-year-old neighbor in Kota in Rajasthan after a quarrel in January 2009. In this connection, the senior police officers say what is more alarming is that many of the young offenders are turning to serious crimes. Talking about their social background, a senior officer said, most of these juvenile criminals come from families of higher income groups. Some of the dreaded criminals in the capital started as pickpockets in their teenage and went on to become robbers and murderers. A journal, Crime in India of 2008, published by the NCRB, reported thus: a large chunk of juveniles belong to the poor families whose annual income was up to 25,000. The share of juveniles hailing from middle income group ranging from 50,000 to 2 lakhs was 12.8%. The report says in 2008, a total of 34,507 boys and girls in the age group of 7 to 18 years were arrested for various offences. The report adds, in a state-wise classification, that Maharashtra tops the list of juvenile crimes with 6,972 arrests for various IPC and local and special law crimes, followed by Madhya Pradesh, where police have apprehended 6,186 people up to 18 years of age. Chhattisgarh is placed third with 5,112 such arrests, followed by Tamil Nadu with 2,927, Gujarat 2,466 and Rajasthan 2,456. The period from 1980s is also witnessing increasing juvenile offences. Contrary to the general belief that mostly the boys of the poor and broken homes turn into juveniles and become juvenile offenders, the modern world is witnessing the youth of the well-to-do families becoming juvenile and juvenile offenders. In many cases of robbery reported during the last one decade, youth in the age group of 18 to 24 are found to be involved. In conclusion, it can be said that in the course of economic development of any country, there are bound to be more crimes, because of the various factors which were mentioned earlier, and we have been witnessing these kinds of crimes in India in the course of the economic development which has been taking place over the past 4 or 5 decades.